Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back with you again this week. This week we're going to take a look in our first segment. We're going to review the game against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. In our second segment, we're going to talk about our players of the game from the game against Mississippi State. And then our third and final segment, we're going to preview the upcoming game against the Tennessee Volunteers. Well, it's great to be back with you again on another podcast on Alabama football. I want to take this time to thank Lance Shores for all he does on production of this podcast each and every week. Go visit Lance at some of his sites on RollTideBama.com and also FreelancePictures.com. He has some great Alabama content on his Roll Tide Bama site, and he has some wonderful pictures that he takes. He's a great photographer. He has some wonderful pictures on the Freelance Picture site. Also out there, if you know anyone, you listen to this podcast, you have people who are $1 Million Band fans or parents of $1 Million Band. Lance has some wonderful pictures and videos of the $1 Million Band where those parents can find good pictures of their kids playing and marching in the $1 Million Band. So check out Lance's site. Again, that's RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Well, right here on the very first segment of the podcast, we're going to review the game against Mississippi State. What a game it was. Alabama came out and, in my opinion, played for the first time a full four-quarter solid football game on both sides of the ball, ending in a 49-9 victory there in Starkville, Mississippi on a Saturday night. I thought Alabama came out and handled the crowd noise. If you've ever been to Starkville, in that stadium with all those cowbells ringing, it can get pretty loud. So I thought Alabama did a real good job of rebounding against the loss against Texas A&M. And came in, was able to handle the crowd noise, handle the hostile environment well against a really good, solid Mississippi State team that, in fact, had beaten Texas A&M. So I think it was a really good performance. First of all, let's look at the defense, because I think the defense really rose to the occasion. Anytime you're going to play a Mike Leach team that spreads the field, they're going to test you in your speed, in your coverages, and how gap sound you are. And in this game, Alabama did a really, really good job of maintaining their composure throughout the game on defense. I thought they played a really good scheme, sometimes using pressure to bring on the quarterback, and sometimes just rushing three people and dropping back into coverage to cover all those wide receivers and backs that were coming, catching passes out of the backfield. In this game, their quarterback, which had been really averaging a lot of stats, Will Rogers, he was 35 of 55 for 300 yards, but he had 3 interceptions. So I think the pressure got to him. I know he was injured at one point in his shoulder, and I really believe he was rattled all day by the disguises that we were giving. One thing I don't think we've done in the past that I saw in this game was we disguise some of our coverages. Normally, they know what you're playing when they walk up to the line, and whether you're playing man-to-man or you're going to cover 2, drop zone, whether you're rushing the quarterback or not. But in this, we disguised that very well, and I thought it set up really good for the defensive players to be able to make plays. Henry To'oTo'o was running all over the field, backing from sideline to sideline, showing his coverage. And he ended up being the leading tackler for the Alabama team. He had 7 tackles and 6 assists, and he was credited for 1 sack. So he was really all over the field and did a good job of that middle linebacker play. So our defensive backs played real well against the pass in this game. So I was very pleased with our overall defensive side. The main thing that was really there in this game was the pressure. I think the pressure in this game pressured the quarterback really well. I think that's really good pressure from our defensive linemen. And I really think that overall that this defensive team really took the challenge. They were challenged. And they were challenged during the week internally by the coaches. They were challenged by players such as Will Anderson stepping up and talking about playing to a Bama standard. And I really believe they rose to that standard in this game and really showed what kind of defense we could have. The kind of defense that I talked about we would have back in the spring. How it could really, if it ever came together and gelled good, that it could really be one of the best defenses we've ever had. So I still believe we can get there. I don't think we played our best game yet, But I do think this was a very big step in the right direction on the defensive side of the ball. And on the offensive side of the ball, I really believe we had a better play calling. Our offensive line had better production. We protected the quarterback better. And I think the quarterback made better decisions in this game on when to run the ball, when to pass the ball. Our running game was spot on. We had, we looked like we relied heavily on Brian Robinson to carry the ball in this game. He rushed for 68 yards. He rushed for 73 yards. He caught passes for 68 yards. And then we had Roydell Williams come in to give him a little breather, and Roydell Williams picked up 78 yards. So we had a balancing rushing attack between our two main running backs. Trey Sanders got 4 carries in the game, and he was able to gain 6.8 yards of carries on his 4 touches. And so I think our overall running game was good. One thing I loved was taking time out in the goal line with the opportunity to run the ball for a touchdown. We had a play call when you're going fast. Coach Saban even said it later. When you're going fast like that, you got a play call. You got the wrong personnel in. You're going to run a play that's designed based on what your personnel is. But this time, instead of throwing the ball like we did against Texas A&M, we called timeout. We regathered. We went to the sideline, came back with our jumbo package, and ran the ball in, imposed our will on Mississippi State, and scored from the goal line. I like those decisions. I think we ought to make those type of decisions inside the goal line to run the ball more, and this game showed that we had a very balanced game between running the ball and throwing the ball. I love seeing the passes in this game. They were shorter passes, but we really maintained some good yard after catch, and I think that was really important in the way that Mississippi State played defense. And it was also great to see Trayshawn Holden get an opportunity to contribute. And he did well in this game, in the passing game. So I think overall, against Mississippi State, we played our best game so far, our best well-rounded game, both offense and defense. We didn't turn the ball over. We didn't have a fumble, didn't have an interception. We didn't make crazy penalties. We still had a couple of penalties, but we didn't have any large number of mistakes and penalties that really hurt us in this game. So I think overall, the game against Mississippi State was by far the best we played. Is it our best? No. I don't think we've peaked yet. I don't think we've seen Alabama's best performance yet. I believe that'll be later on down the road. As long as we keep improving, though, and getting better every week, I think there's nothing that this team can't accomplish. Well, in the second part of the podcast today, in the second segment, we're going to look at the players of the game. Let's start on offense. My first player of the game against Mississippi State has to be Bryce Young. Again, I think he had a command performance. He was 20 of 28 for 348 yards and 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. I said earlier in the first segment how he made the right decisions, and I think he made the right decisions on when to run the ball. He extended the plays on third down with his legs, and he passed the ball really well to the correct receivers. Of those 20 of 28, of the 8 that he didn't hit, I think 4 of those were drops that could have been caught. So I think he really did a really good job. But I was more impressed with his poise in this game than any other game. When you're the quarterback at the University of Alabama, what you do between the games is important. And I understand that immediately following that loss at Texas A&M, he took it on himself to reach out to other players, other quarterbacks that Alabama has played with, including Mac Jones from last year, to get some pointers of what he could do to improve his leadership. And I think it really showed in this game. He bounced back from a loss at Texas A&M and brings his team in and offensively really runs the game plan to what I would consider to be perfection, getting the ball in the right places and doing the right things. Now, were we perfect on offense? No. We still had some 3-and-outs that we shouldn't have. We still had some breakdowns that we shouldn't have. But I think overall his performance was one of the best of the year. So he's one of my offensive players of the game. My second offensive player of the game is John Metchie. Some people have asked me, and I've even asked the question, where's John Metchie been in the game plan? Well, up to this point, he hasn't been a difference maker as I thought he would be. But I saw some flashes in this game that he was the person that Bryce Young was looking for, especially on some third down conversions to try to get the ball to him. And I think he did a really good job in this game. He had in this game, he was the leading receiver with 7 receptions for 117 yards and 1 touchdown. So he did a really good job, especially a possession receiver. So my offensive players of the game are Bryce Young and John Metchie. The defensive players of the game, first we're going to start with the person that's been the defensive player of the game every week for me so far, and that's Will Anderson Jr. We just can't get away from the great play that he does. In this game, when you think he can't raise the level of his play, he raises it again. And again, I think what he did off the field this week speaks volumes of the player. We know how talented he is. We know how athletic he is. We know how fast he is. And we know how aggressive that he is. But this week, he took it to another level in leadership, and I was so proud of him. He spoke out. If you hadn't had a chance to watch his interview last week, he was very contemplative in what he was saying, but he was very direct in what he had said to the team. And I think it showed. He challenged the team to play to the Bama standard and just pretty much called the whole defense out that it wasn't playing that standard. And that's one thing to challenge them vocally and verbally in a press conference or after a game. But he not only did that, he challenged them daily in practice, according to the coaches and other people I've heard from. He challenged them daily in practice. But he went out and performed in practice to rise to that same standard that he had challenged everybody else to. It was a great example all week. And then when it came to game time, when the lights turned on, he made it a point to ramp up his game to be the best that he could be. And I think he played his best game so far. In this game, when you watch him isolated on the offensive lineman from Mississippi State, no matter who he went up against, he was dominant in those. He had 5 tackles, 1 assist, and 4 of those tackles were sacks. 4 sacks. Now, to put that in perspective for you, there's only been 2 other players in the history of Alabama football that have had at least 4 sacks in a game. And now he is tied for the most sacks in a game by an Alabama football player. 2 players. One of those players is Leroy Cook, one of the great edge rushers that Alabama's ever had playing for them. And the other one is Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas, one of the best linebackers, edge rushers, quarterback sack masters that's ever played the game, both college or professional. And so when you raise your game to that level, to setting a record or tying the record for the most sacks in a game, you know that you've taken your game to another level. The person that he went against was someone he was familiar with, Scott Lashley. He had played at Alabama last year, and he had transferred to Mississippi State via the transfer portal, and he was starting right tackle for Mississippi State. Well, in this game, it was easy to see that Will Anderson was just better than every offensive lineman. Not just saying like Scott Lashley, he was better than every offensive lineman Mississippi State had put on the field, all across the board wherever he rushed the ball, rushed from the outside rushing position. So I just can't say enough of how great a player Will Anderson is, and I can't wait to see him raise his level of play to another level, because believe it or not, I still believe we haven't seen his best game. I'll go ahead and predict, I think this year at some point he will set the record for the most sacks ever in a game by an Alabama football player. The second player of the game on defense is Jordan Battle. I think Jordan Battle showed a lot of poise in this game. He showed a lot of leadership in this game. He had been vocal. I've heard him practice as well as Will Anderson to step up and try to get everyone to play to a different standard. And in this game, Alabama played some thief, or some people call it a robber scheme or a thief scheme, and it really paid off for him to buy into the change. And it was a weekly change they put in over the week based on what they had seen in practice and watching the film of how Mississippi State threw the ball and got the ball out to its wide receivers on the outside portions of the field. And so Jordan Battle in this game had 2 interceptions, one of which he returned for a touchdown. So that he really raised the level of his play in this game and really did a good job. So my players of the game on offense for Alabama are Bryce Young and John Metchie, and my players of the game in this game on defense are Will Anderson Jr. and Jordan Battle. Well, that brings us to the third and final segment on today's football podcast for Alabama football, this DC Capstone Report. We thank you for tuning in each and every week. And today, in this third and final segment today, we're going to look at the upcoming game against the Tennessee Volunteers. What a great rivalry. A great rivalry for football. It's great for the fans. It's one that the coaches at Alabama take great pride in. Some of the facts in this game is, for Coach Saban, he has never coached an Alabama team that's lost to a Tennessee team. And I think that's really, really hard to believe. But the last time Tennessee beat Alabama was in 2006, and Coach Saban was coach at the Miami Dolphins at that time. So 14 years in a row, Alabama has beat the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, it wasn't always that way. The rivalry has been big, back and forth. There were teams during the Bryant days that kind of turned the tide, if you will, for Alabama to start getting the upper hand. Before that, Tennessee had the upper hand many times in this rivalry. But right now, Alabama is on a present streak of 14 games from 2007 to the present. And this rivalry dates back all the way to 1901. So they've been playing games since 1901. And that was a game of, if you know your Alabama football history, the first Tennessee-Alabama game ended in a 6-6 tie. There's been a total of 103 meetings along the way since this has taken place. And the Tennessee Vols roll into Tuscaloosa, Alabama this coming Saturday. It used to be called the third Saturday in October, and some people still call it that. It'll be played on the fourth Saturday of October this year, on the 23rd. It's coming Saturday. It's going to be a great opportunity for Tennessee to try to get a victory over Alabama. They want to break this curse, this 14-game losing streak. They want to do that. They have a new coach. They're excited. And they're coming off of a game that they just got beat by the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, if you watched any of that game, it was, in my opinion, and I'm saying this as a non-unbiased, just looking at the game, it was in my opinion, one of the worst displays of sportsmanship by the fans, those fans that littered the field late in that game. So I know Tennessee is going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, feeling like everyone's against them, it's them against the world. And they're going to try to motivate their players into coming in here and playing against this Alabama team. So I set that up for this. This is an opportunity for Alabama to go on a stage on national television and really, really up its game, ramp it up even better than they did against Mississippi State last week. And I think that if this team is bought in like I think they have, that this will be the game that could turn the season into a more dominant season. You know, last week Coach Saban was questioning whether or not Alabama was an elite team. And I think the only ingredient that's missing in the elite status of Alabama being an elite team is Alabama's identity. I believe that they had lost the Bama standard, and some players on the team had not bought in, had taken it lackadaisical or complacent, and it took the loss against Texas A&M to get people to stand up like Will Anderson, Jordan Battle, Bryce Young, to be more vocal leaders to get this team moving in the right direction. And I think Mississippi State game showed that. I believe that the next step will be taken in this game against Tennessee. To me, I know it's a hated rivalry for the fans, and I know that these players want nothing more than to extend the streak to 15 games after this game on Saturday. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, I think there's a formula that Alabama has used in playing some of these spread offense teams that they can really do a good job in this game, can really set Alabama up for a big victory. And I think that what we've done against Ole Miss in the defense, what we did against Mississippi State, and you know, Josh Heupel is going to bring that spread offense in. It's going to be a fast pace. Going to try to get the ball and run many plays, and they're going to try to take advantage of some of our weaknesses. I think Alabama has found a way to pressure the quarterback, to play coverage in a way that stops some of the slanting and the passes that are so big in these spread offenses, and give just that extra couple of seconds for them to have to hold the ball. And Alabama's done a really good job of getting to the quarterback for those extra couple of seconds and affecting the quarterback play. I think Will Anderson has a big game in this, and I believe that we're going to really do a good job of shutting down Tennessee The crowd is also going to be a big factor as well. On offense, all we have to do in this game is continue to play a balanced offense. If we come out and limit our mistakes, we limit our penalties and our turnovers, and we play a balanced offense of running the ball and passing the ball, running the ball effectively against this Tennessee defense and setting up the pass for some big play action passes, I believe there's a lot of big plays to be made in this game. I think Tennessee tries to do too much and has some turnovers and sets us up for some good plays. And I believe that when it's all said and done on Saturday night, we come out of here with a victory that extends the winning streak to 15 games, and Alabama wins this game going away late in the fourth quarter, 56-17. Well, I look forward to another great week of Alabama football as we prepare for this Tennessee game. If you hadn't had an opportunity to already look at some of those sites that Lance has, go out and look at freelancepictures.com and rolltidebama.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Look forward to being back here again next week as we review the Tennessee game. Thanks. Have a great week and roll tide.